is because when you're reading a difficult text, Johnny, say with me, if you're reading a difficult text that's hard to understand, if you can write down and ask questions and think as you're reading, you're better.
Hey guys! Ever since I mentioned it in a previous video, a ton of you wanted to know how I annotate books. I am currently enrolled in AP English Literature, and for that class I have to read a ton of books, and we've already gone through 3 separate novels, so I've kind of had time to fine-tune my system and see what really works for me while I annotate. For those who don't know, annotating is just when you're reading a novel or an article or any short story or anything like that, and you're just adding in your own comments and notes in the margins of that text. It's just supposed to sort of enhance the experience as you read. If your teacher has a specific system or guidelines that they want you to follow for annotating, definitely make sure you follow those first. My English teacher doesn't really have a specific system that we should follow. She just wants us to annotate, period. Annotating is a great way to actively read, and it really helps you avoid passively staring at a novel as you read past each page, and you don't really absorb as much as you would if you did annotate, just because annotating really opens up a conversation with the text. You're able to comment, jot down all of your thoughts, ideas, keep track of themes, really anything you choose to do as you read, and it's just a better way to read, especially for a literature-heavy class. So when I first started annotating The Secret History, which was the first book I was assigned to annotate, I decided to try to use another person's system because I just really didn't know where to start at all. And I made these 2 little flip outs using scrapbook paper and washi tape just to remind myself of what I was looking for, just to get used to it. And so I decided that for the left margins, I would use those for comments, questions, arguments, and connections, and the right margins to summarize any interesting things, quotable phrases, adding like diction, syntax, figurative language, things like that. And I also wrote down any themes I wanted to keep track of as well. And for the inside cover at the front, I also decided to put in a bunch of sticky notes of like vocabulary words I wanted to look up, major plot points, when characters were introduced, and things like that. I found this system worked pretty well for me, but it was very, very detail-oriented and took a lot of time to complete efficiently, and so I decided to try to simplify my system the next time I read a book. For the next book I read, which was The Kite Runner, I decided to really solidify my color coding system with my highlighters. So pink stands for literary devices or figurative language, yellow stands for plot points, green stands for character development, and blue stands for thematic ideas, motifs, and symbols. In these longer novels, I found it was really, really useful to add a little summary of the plot for each chapter, and also writing a little dialectical, just a couple sentences about certain literary devices that stuck out to me during each chapter, because I think that really helped me keep track of the development of certain themes throughout the book, and that became really, really useful for class discussions and Socratic seminars that we'd have later on. I think that annotating has really shown me how much I can get out of reading literature, because I just write down like my thoughts as I read, whether it's just like a smiley face or, you know, just a direct reaction to something that happened in the book, or even just like commenting on a certain theme or thing that I find reoccurring throughout the novel. And I found that I just got more out of the book than I would if I didn't annotate, so I would definitely recommend trying to annotate literature even if you aren't required to do so. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my YouTube channel because I post videos every Wednesday and Sunday. You can add me on Snapchat and follow me.
She's putting a real big pitch out there. Alright, so now that we can see. She mentioned a word in there. She said that reading while annotating is better than passive reading. Okay? So this is why passing. It's not what I said. Passing period. Passive and active. types of reading, girls, on the board, okay? There's passive reading and there's active reading. There's also passive learning and there's active learning, okay? So how many of you, let me give you an example of passive learning, okay? In my high schools, I went to El Dorado, just down the road, okay? My government and econ teacher, who I believe is still a teacher there, every day he would get on his podium and literally read his lecture to us. Nothing on the board, no interaction, no discussion, would just read for an hour and a half his lecture, okay? As a learner, are you doing anything? No. You're just sitting there while someone's talking to you, okay? That's called passive learning, all right? So that means that you aren't engaging in the process. Huh? Can we do that? No, I'm very against that. Okay? That's active learning, or passive learning. Active learning, on the other hand, so, for example, sometimes if I'm teaching, like, argument, I might have us get up and have discussions and go to different sides of the room for I agree or I disagree and argue why. Okay? That's active learning because you are taking part in the learning process. Right? So in active, you are taking part in the learning. So, now if we get to reading, all right, as a reader, when would you be a passive reader? When would you be a passive reader? Tony? So just reading, right? Just reading was for fun or for school, Aiden?
When I'm reading to try and fall asleep when I'm barely conscious.
Okay, reading maybe to fall asleep. All right, on the other hand, what would be an example of active learning or active reading? What would be an example of active reading? Okay? Remember, it's when you are taking part in the process. Yeah, Johnny.
The thing you had us do yesterday, where each of us read a paragraph?
Yeah. So when you read a paragraph to each other, right, because you have to be actively engaged, you have to be listening to someone else and then know when to read again, right? Yeah, Tony. Sorry, what was that? Okay, so you can even do that with a written way, right? So as you read, you could be drawing images, the images that you see. Okay, you can be annotating. You can be asking questions. And we're gonna do a lot of these, guys. FYI, I'm gonna actually teach you how to read. We're going back to like first grade because a lot of the times we know how to read, but sometimes we don't absorb it, right? Like with poetry, we'll read it and we'll be like, what the heck is that saying? Okay. That's because we never really went over how to access something that difficult. Alright? So this is why we annotate, because if you are actively taking notes and underlining and writing down things, you're taking part in the learning process. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm not asking you to do something just to be mean to you. I'm asking you to annotate because it actually helps you learn. Is that clear? Okay. I thought your hand was up, but it was underneath your chin. Alright. So. Ah! Did you want to watch it again?
Sure.
So, are you saying I'm not fun, Charles?
Yes.
Rude! Rude!
Yes.
Alright, Charles is on my no fun list for today. We're not friends.
Wow. Well, we only got about 5 minutes.
Okay, you've got a whole semester with me, right? Alright, here are some ideas to get you annotating, okay? So you can you can do what that girl in the video was doing if you picked up some good ideas from her. Here's some other ones, okay? Highlight areas you think are important. Pretty simple, right? Underline it. I don't care. Do something to signify that something is important, alright? Stay with me. 2, you can put a question mark by areas that you're confused about. That will help you a lot when you're trying to read, like, a psychology textbook, right? Because you have lots of questions. And then you'll forget about what questions you had when you were reading. You'll be like, I read it! Yay! You didn't absorb any of it, people. 3, underline unfamiliar words, all right? So if there's any vocabulary in there that you don't know, underline it. Put a star by it. Do something, all right? Put arrows connecting things you think are related or connected in the text, okay? So by that I mean, if we get to a part of a story that you're like, oh wait, that was mentioned earlier on, you can totally go like this and draw an arrow, okay? It's a great way to annotate. Or put a exclamation point by surprising details, or put a star by things that you personally connect with. Guess what, guys? Your personal experiences make you connect with text in different ways, okay? That's why we like different genres. Does that make sense? Someone's going to like sci-fi because they have a different personal experience than someone else. All right? A war veteran might want to read a lot of those stories about World War II or Vietnam War because they lived it, right? Okay. Unless they have bad memories. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at our packets. So go ahead and open them up. Page 4 is the first one. It is the African Bushman creation myth. Okay? Hold it up so everyone has their packet. Chew! Okay. You guys are going to read this on your own, and I want you to annotate. Okay? You all have pencils. I know if you want a colored pencil or a marker or highlighters, I have some up here. Okay? If you want to grab one of these, go ahead and do that. Annotate in a way that makes sense to you. So whether it's my directions or whether it's the girls' directions or whether you've done this before, go ahead and do that, okay? But actively engage with the text. Just do the African Bushman one first. Okay?
Same. Like, we can think about it as like, don't judge people from the outside because. Yeah, or don't judge people by its cover because what you see on the outside is only body, but inside is living spirit.
What we see is only the outside form or body. So this connects to like don't judge a book by its cover, you said.
Yeah.
Good. Get to know someone. Right. What else did we mark? Did we mark down any words we didn't know or anything like that? Caleb.
Oh, so I was going to say one thing I marked was so kind of the king, kind of like how he's a god.
Yes.
But one thing I also marked was the part where he instructs them to live peacefully. I guess that's saying, like, I don't know, that Africans, like, they like peace to say, because that was, like, how it all started. Like, I know not, like, the Greeks, when they started, it was all violence, but
it was peace.
Yeah.
So what part did you mark up?
When he says instructs them to live peacefully, like...
Okay, so he instructs them to live together peacefully.
That, like, the Africans like peace then, or...
So the culture values peace.
Yeah.
So really quick, I'm going to get you Charles. Okay, girls, look at the board real quick. He was saying that in this creation story, the God, as you will, okay, he instructs them to live together peacefully. And so therefore, this culture probably values peace. All right? Now, does that remind you of anything that you are familiar with? Or do you connect that this culture values peace and nothing happens violently until they light the fire that they're not supposed to? Do you guys have any connection with that? Big. Is the hand up, Johnny? Okay. Tony, you've been a big vocal today. Appreciate you. I want to see if anyone else can get to it. Can you... Caleb.
Yeah, biblical creation.
Yes. And why does that connect?
Because when the biblical creation, everything starts out peaceful until man sins, and that kind of breaks the peace.
And that story is the reason why we have sin, correct?
Yes.
And in the African Bushman story, their failure to follow directions, their light in the fire sparks what?
Separation.
And violence, right? So it kind of parallels. That's called a parallel when things are similar but told in different ways. Okay, it's called a parallel, right? Because if two parallel lines are like this. Yeah.
Or another example kind of be like, I know in the Greek mythology there's a flood because they said man was like too sinful, so the Greek gods decided to flood the earth.
Yes, our resident mythology expert says yes, he's read that before. Yeah, so that, and even if you go into biblical culture,
there's Noah and God.
yes. Isn't it kind of weird how things intertwine once you start to look at different cultures like that? It's very fascinating. I took a world religion course in college, and it was like that, where you find connections, be like, wow, this is really cool. Charles, your hand was up, buddy.
Yeah, I can't quite remember what the word bliss means.
Where is it?
Top.
Okay. During this time of bliss, Kang began to plan the wonders he would put in the world above. Okay, so let's go to the top paragraph. People did not always live on the surface of the earth. At one time, people and animals lived underneath the earth with Kang, the great master and lord of all life. In this place, people and animals lived together peacefully. They understood each other. No one ever wanted for anything, and it was always light, even though there wasn't any sun. Does that give you a clue as to what bliss could mean?
Kind of paradise.
Yeah. It's being described as a place where they lived together peacefully. Everyone understood each other, right? So bliss is like pure happiness. So in this time of pure happiness, okay, that's what it meant. Did you underline that? Or question mark it?
Question.
Yes! Winning, Charles! Okay, so question mark.
Credit.
Woo!
Credit. Pass the class.
We're just starting, buddy. All right, Tony, what'd you have? Yeah.
Two old people went to the Oracle and basically told them to trap rocks behind them in a new generation group.
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating.
It's very, because they said that they were more durable to the elements of sin or because like the other ones were made out of
No, I
They
didn't.
said pretty much you will grow a new race from the mother of Gaia, so they took the rocks, which were technically the Earth's bone,
Yeah.
and started chucking them behind them. Whenever the guy chucked them behind him, a guy grabbed a rock, like it was like an egg.
How, in the biblical story, how does man grow? God took what? Dust. Yeah. Similarities, right?
But Noah's family also went on the ark, so.
They did, yes. Did anyone else have anything that they thought was really cool, either a personal connection or that they thought was really important, or a word they didn't understand that they might have marked? Hold on, Reagan, can you hold up your paper? So, guys, Reagan, she put in some tabs on the side, too. That's the way I like to annotate, so that I can just flip to exactly where it was, especially in books. You can buy them. I can get some for you if you want, but you can get them at like the Dollar Tree and other places. Those are really good things to use. Okay? All right, can we move on? All right, so let's go to the Greek creation myth. All right? So same thing. I want you guys to continue the same annotating format that you use in the African Bushman myth, and then go into the Greek one. Okay? So whatever format you use, if you highlighted important things and then circled other things, continue that format. Okay? And then we'll discuss.
Really quick, I love the first 10 words.
First there was the
void and chaos.
Opposite.
There was no peace.
It's the opposite, right, of the African Bushman one.